This episode is brought to you by Absolute Landscapes. Absolute Landscapes is a landscape maintenance company that focuses heavily on commercial property maintenance. Call today for information about the services we provide and how we can best help you. 803-427-5944.
So, yeah, I don't know where we want to start. I guess maybe if you want to introduce yourself, like just kind of preface the conversation.
Thank you for having me, Cody. I'm so excited to be here. My name is Svietlana. I'm a love, dating, and relationship specialist. Whether you want to call it a coach or consultant, so that's my jam. That's where I thrive. I essentially teach how to manifest your soulmate and have a blissful relationship in your life. So that's what I do. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
All right, nice. Okay, so I just have to ask, man, the manifesting, like, can you help me? Can I just is there a way I can get like a giant pile of money right here in the next 30 minutes? Like, can I manifest that?
Can you truly believe and know in every cell of your body that you can actually have it in the next 30 minutes there?
I don't know, maybe. I mean,
Maybe.
I don't know. But so, okay, here's the thing about manifesting to me, which I think has always been the hardest part, and maybe it's why I can't do it as well. It's the believing part,
Yeah.
Like I know there's the visualizing and all this kind of thing, but it's like to me, it's the belief. I think this is a thing, and if I'm not, correct me, but it's the belief that it's already,
Yours.
a case,
Yeah.
the case.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's just hard for me to believe. I guess I feel like I'm lying to myself, basically.
And that's why you do the whole visualization and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You do it in order to believe in it. The more you get into that state, you start imagining having it in your life, you
Mm-hmm.
start believing that you might be able to have it. But it is all about believing and trusting that you can have it, whatever it is that you want. However,
So, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, however, at the same time, you shouldn't be too attached to the outcome. So it's like, let's say you ordered a parcel from Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you ordered the parcel, it's coming, right? You know
Right.
that it should come to your address because that's where you ordered it. You sit and wait. And if it doesn't show up tomorrow or the day after, you know that it's still coming, right?
Mm-hmm.
It might be late, but it's going to come at some point.
Right.
And that's how manifestation works. So you're not attached to it coming or not. You know that, well, if it doesn't show up right now, it still will show up eventually, even if there are like strikes or roads are closed. But at some point, in a week or 2 weeks, the worst case scenario is going to arrive. And that's how it works with manifestation. When you know that you have it, it's like you placed an order to the universe and you did your bit. You're doing whatever you need to do in order to get what you want.
Right.
And then you must trust that it's coming to you. And if it doesn't show up when you expect it to show up, then it's still coming. And that's where a lot of people go wrong. They start, not believing in it. They think, oh, it didn't show up. What did I do wrong? Well, it's not going to come. It doesn't work, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when they fail to get it, because now they send a message to the universe that I don't believe it. It's not coming to me. And the universe says, yes, your wish is my command. Now you changed your mind, sort of thing. But you just do not believe that you're going to get it. So you're not getting it.
So that makes a lot of sense. I'll say this though. I feel like when I manifest things, I've never really manifested a specific time. Like, I want this good thing to happen to me tomorrow or whatever, but I do focus on details that maybe I'm looking at too many details. Like if I see myself, if I am trying to get something for myself, I might see myself, and it's like the details, like I might see the specific shirt that I'm wearing that day, and I don't know if I don't know if I'm putting like too much detail into when we say visualize, if we put too much detail into it, that might be a bad thing,
So it really depends on what kind of manifestor you are, because there are people who need to go really deep into what they want to get and how it's going to happen. And they imagine it exactly how you said, like, what you're going to wear, or, what hairstyle you have, or, for example, if you want to manifest a house or flat that you want to get, you'll start to imagine every little bit in the house, how the handle will look, and how the plant will be there and something else there, your coffee machine will look like this. I am a non-specific manifester. I can't do that. Every time I used to hear this message, and they, I would, see online, oh, you need to go really deep into what you want to get. I just couldn't do it, and I hated it. I hated the process because I was like, I can't imagine, because I'm non-specific manifester. I know generally what I want. I might imagine, okay, well, I want apartment of this size, and I want it to be cozy, and I want to be comfortable in it. I wanted to, I don't know, have a balcony, let's say, right? Or be on such and such floor. But I cannot go and imagine every bit in it. It's just not who I am. And there are these two types of people. There are people who manifest by going really deep into nitty gritty, and there are people like me who cannot do that, and they don't feel comfortable going that deep. It really is all about listening to your intuition and seeing how you feel about it. And if you do not feel comfortable going too deep, then don't. You can just imagine, okay, this is what I want, and think, okay, well, I want this or something better, and then let it go. Let it go. Do things you need to do in order to get it, obviously.
Right.
But
so I guess, okay, so the question I have is the difference in like imagination and visualizing, because it's probably easy for all of us to imagine, insert whatever positive thing. It's easy for us to imagine a nice car, a nice house, or a perfect spouse or whatever. But so what would be the difference in like imagining these things and then like visualizing these things? Is it putting yourself in that experience and feeling what it feels like to be there? Or is it like we said, the belief that it's already, it already exists? I mean, because I don't know. Now that we're talking about this, I'm thinking that I visualize things, but maybe what I'm doing is just like, imagining it. And I guess maybe when we say visualization specifically for manifesting, I guess the only difference would be the belief that that we need to have for that.
I mean, I would say that they're kind of the same thing, but we tend to just imagine things like all the time, right? Something we create in our imagination. But when you visualize something, it's more of a process that is kind of like, that's how we call it when we sit down and kind of have this time and we start visualizing specific things that we want to come to us. But it's really kind of the same thing, really, because in order to visualize something, you need to also imagine things, right? So you imagine them, and then but yeah, during the visualization, it's also some people, they'll still visualize, but they might not have those feelings. So they're kind of one and the same, really. It's just different ways of calling it. But I like that you mentioned this whole thing with how you feel when you visualize things, because that's very important when you imagine or visualize. But let's say visualize, because that's more kind of intentional, right? You sit down and you kind of have your time to visualize and imagine this is what I want. It's important to feel the feelings that you would get, because feelings fuel us up. They kind of give us that little boost to kind of get your vibe to the level you need to get it to kind of create that reality for yourself, right? And and if you can turn on your other senses at the same time, even better. Try to hear what you would hear, try to taste it, So you
Mhm.
see it, you taste it, you feel like you can touch it, and then it's a much more enhanced experience of that visualization in your mind.
Yep.
But again, like whatever you do, it's really to fuel up your belief that it's
Yeah.
already yours. And I think that's where a lot of teachers do not kind of clarify that, because they say this works, but they do not explain why. Is because it brings you closer in your belief.
Mm-hmm.
The more you feel it, the more you visualize, feel, or however, it really depends on your senses also, because for someone, they might visualize forever,
Mm-hmm.
but it won't give them that feeling of having it,
Right.
So it's, every person has different kind of primary senses. For someone, it'll be the smell.
Mm-hmm.
They can smell things, and if they can really smell, whatever they associate it with, that's how they'll kind of turn it on. For someone else, it will be the taste or the
Yeah.
hearing. For me personally, is the feeling. I must feel that this is it, this is mine. And I sometimes have this intuitive downloads of hits. I think it comes from universe. I don't know, maybe from my higher self. But sometimes I just have this, like, just the knowing comes to me.
Mm-hmm.
But for everyone, is different. That's why for somebody, visualization will work, and for someone, it won't.
Yeah.
Make sense?
So yeah, I'm following you on that. And so I guess too, something else to point out that's really important here is when we say the belief that it's already happened, or that it will happen, or that it is happening, a different kind of belief that I would imagine is important is the belief that you either can do this thing, or that you're worthy of this thing, or whatever. Because, I feel like if we do this practice, this manifestation, and we visualize this thing and we feel this thing, I don't think it's really going to matter if we don't feel like we are worthy of this thing. So, just say, like, for if we're manifesting a specific partner, well, it might be nice to imagine that and feel that in our imagination, but if we don't feel like that we are truly worthy of that, I mean, we're never going to, I don't feel like we're ever going to get anywhere. First of all, because like, it might be hard for you to imagine that if you don't feel like you're worth that, but then are worthy of that. But then also too, it's going to be hard for you to take the steps that you need to get to that person or that place or that achievement, whatever it is, if you feel like you can't do it, basically, if you don't have that belief in yourself. So I guess the observation would be that the belief in yourself that you can achieve this is just as important, if not the most important, because, like I said, it's like you mentioned earlier, you can't just manifest things into existence. You have to, manifest it and then go do things to make it happen,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
and if you don't believe in yourself that you're not capable, or you're not worthy, or you're not smart enough or pretty enough or whatever it is, that's going to influence the decisions that you make or do not make, on the path of getting that thing.
100%.
Yeah. So I don't know, maybe
It's really deep, because, like, for every person, it'll be something different. And when you do not, because often, like, people might not even realize they don't feel worthy.
Mm-hmm.
It's how you, for example, say, okay, it's not feeling worthy, but they might think it's something different. They'll be like, I feel worthy, I should have it. But
Mm-hmm.
it's, but it might be so deep inside them that they won't
Yep.
even realize what is it, that is sitting in them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a much deeper work that needs to happen for them to uncover that, whether it's self-worth or self-love, or any other, because we are all traumatized,
Yep.
in one way or the other. And
Mm-hmm.
usually from childhood. I don't know if there is a single person on this planet who hasn't been traumatized in some way. So you need to uncover what is it inside you that's stopping you from getting what you want to get. But yeah, if you have been traumatized in one way or the other, you need to figure it out and
Mm-hmm.
kind of remove that understand that, it's not who you are. You didn't come here this way. This is just the experience you had in the past. And right now it's affecting you. And it happened because of this, and that. And it's affecting you because of this, and that. And
Yep.
then when you uncover and work through it, then you should be free to kind of go and get exactly what you want. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty big point also that's really important. I don't think enough people understand that like the trauma that we may have experienced in childhood, like I think it like represents itself the most in intimate relationships in your adult life, just from what I've heard and who, people I've talked to and things I've read and what I've experienced myself. I feel like childhood trauma comes out the most in your intimate relationships as an adult.
100%. Not only in every relationship, because every relationship you're in, whether it's with your partner, your children, your parents, your siblings, literally every person you engage in any kind of relationship, even work relationships, they will always provide you with an opportunity to heal.
Yep.
So whatever happened to you in your past, if you have not healed it in your childhood, let's say, if you have not healed it over the years, and you have not even realized that it needs healing, you'll start getting all these different case scenarios happening in each and every area of your life that will keep showing you, you need to heal this, you need to heal this, you need to heal this. But because people do not know how to deal with it, and they do not realize that this is just one of the universal laws, that is showing you, this is your trauma, you need to heal this. They do not realize. So they're like, why is this happening to me? And they start like getting into this sort of victim mode. But really, it's just universe showing you, this needs healing. You need to work on this.
Well, and I think that people only think, they think it's just them that has to do the healing. When I think one of the best quotes I've ever heard is that relationships are a mirror. They're a mirror for you. They show you kind of what's wrong with you and what's lacking with you. But I think when we get in those situations, especially with somebody we deeply care about, like an intimate partner or something like that, it's easy for us to feel like that we are the only person that experiences that. Something's wrong. Something must be wrong with us. Something major is wrong with us. And that's why it's not working out with all these people. And, it might be that, yes, something's wrong, but I don't think it's wrong in the way that we think about it. It's not like it's an irreparable thing. Man, one thing I wish that high schools, I don't know about where you grew up, but I know here, I wish that high schools taught emotional intelligence. I wish we were taught these things as young adults and, teenagers about how to look inside of us and see what we're feeling like. Can I just say this, like damn the algebra and all the other stuff. Like, I don't like the square root of whatever. We don't care about that. Like, can we get emotional intelligence and like figure out how to figure out what's going on with us, man? Because we get out to the adult world and we basically have to learn the hard way. I can't tell you how many people I know personally that have went to some sort of therapist, whether it's a psychologist or whatever, for however long amount of time, because of this same thing. Like, and I mean, I feel like that part of our education is neglected because our parents, to no fault of their own, because they didn't know any better than we did, like we were not taught these things. As I wasn't taught this as a child, or as a teenager. Like I said, I had to learn basically on my own as an adult on how to, what this even meant, emotional intelligence. What does that even mean?
And most people, they don't even learn through experience. They do not realize what's lacking in their life. They just go as is. It's really funny that you mentioned therapists, because even therapists often do not help. I remember one of my clients, we had our second session, and after that, she said, like, we've uncovered certain things that she was like, oh my God, I've been going to therapy for 2 years and we never touched on this, never uncovered this.
Yep.
Which was like a very deep root of her issues in her relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like even therapists, because they've been kind of trained in a certain way to do their job, and with certain kind of experiences, they don't even apparently go deep enough to try and uncover that. They just listen to you and ask, how do you feel about it?
Right.
But I mean, that's what I've seen.
And look, I'm not disparaging against therapy. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying I wish that it was more of an assertive, like I wish they were a little bit more assertive.
Yeah.
Because I feel like what they try to do is guide somebody in their situation or identity or whatever it is. And I guess that's technically the right way to do it. But the situation that you just described, I've heard that before. Like I've heard of those, when it gets to the point where somebody's in, or this situation, when it gets to the point where somebody's in therapy and they start to uncover these things, the therapy gets to the point where it becomes, the work becomes involved. It becomes painful, or, the deep work. Then when some people get to that point, then they want to quit, when really that's the whole purpose that you're there,
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I just feel like if we had some sort of education around this, I mean, it couldn't hurt. It's not going to hurt. Like, it has to only benefit us if we know this. Yeah. But that's just one of many problems that's wrong with the current education system. But anyways, that's a whole nother tangent.
I think they should teach all the life skills, right? Also, like, how to communicate with people.
Yeah.
Because people really struggle with communication generally, not only in relationships, but with anyone really. Even get into a shop or bumping into someone, and instead of having like normal communication with the person, they'll just blow up or something. It's just all these things really should be taught in school.
Yeah, but that's like the basic stuff that's not even being taught, man. But then you also have like the higher education. You're not going to believe this. Okay, so do you know anything about like cold therapy, like cold plunging, ice baths, and things like that? It's very therapeutic. It helps with like muscle recovery and all that kind of thing. So anyway, I do cold plunges. And so I went to a doctor a while back. I got stung by a yellow jacket or something on my foot, and it was like all swollen up, whatever. And so I went to a doctor, and she had no idea about this cold plunge therapy. Like she was like, "Where did you learn this from?" And I didn't know how to tell her that like this is a pretty common thing. Like, there are major universities in the U.S. who have studied this and experimented with this. Like almost every major athlete does this for athletic recovery. And I'm thinking to myself, like, man, this person, she had to be, I mean, she was well into her medical field. She was probably early 50s, mid 50s. And I'm like, how does this person not know this, man? Like, I'm talking to a medical professional right now, and she's telling me that this is basically not a real thing. And I'm like, what is going on with the education system right now? Like, I'm not saying that she wasn't competent or whatever. I'm just saying I would think that she would be the first one to know about this.
Like, it's everywhere like that, especially with like medical professionals. That's a totally different subject, because I think there are a lot of issues in modern medicine, because it came to the point that if you have anything, like any issue in your body, they just want to cut the part out,
Right. Or give you a pill for it. I mean, there's a pill for everything.
Exactly. So, and I believe in trying to do things in a more natural way. I also, one of the things that I know, because like how the energy works is basically, because we have our physical body, and then we have all this energy certain layers.
Right.
And what happens is when you face a situation, or when you go through something, is we have also this chakra system, right? So before getting an illness, you have this sort of like dense or stagnant energy in your energetic field. And if it's not fixed, if you haven't fixed the problem, then it starts slowly moving into your physical body. Yeah. And that's what people do not realize. So even if you cut something out, but you have not fixed your energetic issue, it can reappear again or affect a different organ which is nearby, because it's in your energy field. We are energetic beings. We are made out of mostly energy, moving energy. So, if you are not energetically fixing it, the problem in your body won't go away. It'll keep reappearing over and over again. So that's on the medical side of things.
That makes a lot of sense, man. That makes a lot of sense, because I feel like, I mean, of everybody that I've met and people that I've known in different areas in life, I feel like the way you feel about your body determines how your body feels. Like the way you, I mean, and I think too, this energetic thing is something that really gets overlooked. Like, people do not put enough emphasis on this to like, first of all, most of us are constantly throughout the day just inundated with like negativity from wherever, from coworkers. We hear people talking on the street and people complain about everything. And it's like, that influences you more than you think, man. If you're being around that, if you're with somebody, especially like a spouse or somebody you're close to, I mean, that's like draining. It just it drains you. Like, and I don't know.
I usually, the first advice I give, if you want to change your, your state, your mindset, without doing too much work, the number one thing you can do is literally remove all negativity. Do not listen to news, radio. If you have any toxic people in your life, don't talk to them. Just remove all of that, and you'll just start noticing that your life is slowly getting better. I've not been listening to news for many, many years.
You can't, man. I mean, you can't.
I don't read newspapers, nothing, because I remember at some point, like years ago, because there were all people, like, even I think my mom used to say, it's good to know what's happening in the world. And I was like, okay, I'm going to try to read a newspaper. I started reading that weekly newspaper every morning. Like, there was this free newspaper in the subway. I'd get a newspaper. Literally within a couple of days, I started getting so depressed that I said, I'm not doing this anymore. It's just like, there is negativity on every page, every day. There is nothing good. What's the point of feeding that? And if you're reading it first thing in the morning, you set your day. You're just setting yourself up to feel horrible all day long, and you do not realize it. You just don't even realize it, because it's kind of like sits in your subconscious. It kind of goes there, because like, there are things that you consciously read, but there are all these other things you do not even see or do not realize that you see, and they just go straight to your subconscious. And then you feel horribly, and how are you supposed to have a good life or have a great relationship with anyone or choose the right partner when everything you can see is, death, murders, rapes, I don't know, like abuse, wars? Just cut that stuff out, and that's number one step. That will just make you feel so much better. And then after that, you can add additional things. That's when the work comes in. You start doing little bits by bits, like meditate, healthier lifestyle, more movement, better sleep, etc., etc., etc. Then you kind of add steps to kind of make more effort. But with like zero effort, just remove all negativity, and you'll already see the difference.
Yeah, there's no way I would torture myself by reading. Like, okay, so like before you go, like an hour before you go to bed and that hour after you wake up, man, I am not trying to have any negativity. Like, I don't even want to look at like Facebook or nothing like that. I don't want I want zero negativity in that time frame, because like before you go to bed is just as important. You know, what the last thing you do or see or say or hear or whatever before you go to bed is like, just, I think it's probably more powerful than what you see when you first wake up, because you see that, you read it, you hear it, and then you go to bed, and then your subconscious mind processes that. And people cannot believe in this thing, or they can believe in it, man. It doesn't really matter. The point is, like, I don't think there's any it's like people who sleep with the TV on, you know, like, first of all, I can't sleep with sound. Like I sleep with a fan or like white noise, but as far as like a TV or something, I can't do that. But just imagine if you are sleeping and you have a TV show of like something violent or whatever. Imagine the effect that has on your subconscious mind, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
And so I don't know. I'm just, I'm very big on that. Like, on what, maybe not so much when I wake up, but definitely before I sleep, I want zero distractions like that hour before I go to sleep, you know?
Yeah, I just got used to every day before I sleep, and when I wake up, the first thing, meditation, even if it's just 5 minutes. 5 minutes. That's all it takes, just to set yourself up. And then sometimes I'll take an extra step. So like when I wake up, I'll just do affirmations on as well, or subliminal, you know. It really depends, like, what do I need to get done, or the mood I'm in. But just all those things to feed my subconscious with positivity for the day. So I've actually created my very own bundle for that. And I have my own meditation that I listen to my own voice.
Yeah.
And it's like I wake up and I have that, and then I have affirmations following, and then I have subliminals, which I've created for myself as well, because you know, I've been selecting all this different affirmations and statements for a long time, so I just be adding them on and on and on. And I've created that just for myself, so that I can, and it's like 55 minutes. I just put on the music because I can't hear, because it's subliminal, right? I can hear only music, and the rest of it just goes straight to my subconscious.
Right.
And then I have my night meditation. So I've just created this whole package for myself. It was like, I'm just going to set myself for greatness each and every day, you know?
Yeah.
I think everyone should do it, honestly.
Well, the way you do it is probably way better, because like if you go to YouTube or something and you type in affirmations or whatever, the problem with that is a lot of those, first of all, it's another person speaking, and secondly, they say I am versus you are. Because if you hear something that says you are, that's a lot more powerful. I mean, if you speak I am, that's powerful. But if you're hearing something that says I am, it's not the same effect as if it says you are. But if you hear your own voice, like, I've never tried that. I hear my own voice through the podcast, and I can't imagine listening to my own affirmations. No, I'm joking. I do have affirmations that I've written myself that I read. I just don't speak them. You know, I don't hear myself speak them.
So I think with affirmations, the thing is, if you hear I am, and if you kind of repeat in your mind, you know, I am this, I'm that. So if you kind of like, it keeps, if you put it like in a loop, it kind of goes straight to your subconscious, because if you don't even like listen to it, it's like you, even though you're hearing someone, it kind of says it to your subconscious, I'm this, I'm that. Also, actually, your mind doesn't quite, your subconscious doesn't really understand when you say I or you or he or she. One of the reasons you shouldn't really talk about other people much, because if you talk about somebody with someone else, right, discuss rumors and stuff, your subconscious mind actually cannot tell that you're talking about someone else. Your mind thinks that you're talking about yourself. Imagine that.
Yeah. Okay. That's something to think about.
Something really to think about.
Gosh, man.
Yeah, our mind is a very tricky tool. We really need to know how to use it right.
I see that. I don't know, man. I gotta do some thinking on that one. Maybe I shouldn't talk. Maybe I just shouldn't speak anymore. I don't know. I feel like most of the things I say about people are generally positive. I hope.
Oh, that's
I don't know.
good.
Sometimes people aggravate me because I don't feel like they don't move fast enough. Like if we're driving or whatever, like,
Yeah.
I mean, because like people, I don't know where you're at. I don't know what side of the road it is. Here we drive on the right side of the road, and there's like a left lane that's supposed to be the fast lane, and people will like drive the speed limit in the fast lane, and I'm like, bro, if the person beside you is going the same speed limit, like move your ass over to this. I don't know,
Yeah.
whatever. So I don't know. Maybe that makes sense because maybe I'm the slow one. if I'm saying that and it's reflected, that makes a lot of sense. Before I get off on a tangent here, let me backtrack for a second. Okay, so we were talking about manifesting and about relationships being a mirror. So like if we're trying to look for a certain person, because like I got a bunch of questions about dating, man. Like we
Okay.
gotta
Let's do this.
something's going on out here in this dating situation. Listen, there's no way that this is a real thing right now. I don't even know where to begin. Like I don't know where to begin.
Well, let's start with you.
Oh
Right?
God.
Because
Oh God. I got a call coming in. I gotta go.
Because it's obviously like a subject of interest, right? So I guess it sounds like you are in a dating status, right? So you dating right now.
Mm-hmm.
So what is your biggest challenge? That many,
Okay,
huh?
well, let me preface this. So I currently do have a girlfriend, and things seem to be going well. Okay, so
Okay.
but before that, the challenge was, I mean, I almost kind of felt like I was maybe asking too much, if that makes sense, or like looking for something that maybe is no longer exists. I don't know, because like we were talking about this before. I kind of have more of a traditional way of looking at the relationships than I think some people have these days. But I'm also very specific on what I'm looking for. Like I'm not just I don't entertain every single offer. Maybe is the best way to say it. Like I'm very specific on what I want and what I'm looking
Which is a
for.
good thing.
Well, it is a good
You
thing,
know
but
what you
it narrows the potential, people, I guess you could say.
Which is also a good thing.
It is a good thing. It is a good thing.
You don't
Yeah.
want to just get anyone.
No, for sure. But no, man, I don't know. I just feel like, I guess what it boils down to is I feel like maybe people don't take it as seriously as they once did. We're in the middle of this like hookup culture, and there's like, and there's just all this stuff going on, and people they're getting married, which I feel like a lot of people might get married too early, too young. I think here in the U.S. the divorce rate is something like 50% or something like that.
I think it's
And
everywhere like that now. Well, in the Western world.
but I mean, you have to ask yourself, like, why is that the case? Like 50%, that's a lot, man. I mean, if you were going, look, I don't want to incriminate you. If a person was going on a plane and they said planes have a 50% chance of crashing, like, what would you do?
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't go on the plane. I don't know. Like, that's just me.
I mean, yeah. I guess
Okay.
that would come to also I guess where do you want to get and why you want to get there, and how important it is for you to get there that you would risk your life that much, 50% of it, So it's like, is it so important to get to that destination that you're ready to crush and not get there at all?
I don't know about that one. I got to think on that one.
Yeah, because it's like, if we talk about the plane, right? So imagine you are, I don't know, on one side, and then the person you love the most in your world, let's say your child, is somewhere else, and you must get there, and you just have this plane, and it's 50% that you're gonna get there. For example, if you're a mother and you can't imagine not being there with your child, you'll probably take that risk. See what I mean? So that's with the plane example. Currently
Right.
not as as in with the dating it's slightly different, of course. But
Yeah, but it's like I don't know, man. It's something else too that I feel like I've said this before. I don't think people think about this enough. You hear a lot about people say before they get married, you hear people say, like, I want to get married. Like, I want to be married one day. One day I want to be married. I want to have this life for myself, whatever. And I understand that. That's great. But my thing is, like, if you want to be married, how do you know that until you meet the person you want to marry? Because I feel like if people say I want to be married one day, then all they want is the marriage, and it's like any person who is like good enough will qualify for that. Now, I mean, that doesn't apply in every case, obviously, but I'm just saying it would make me, if I was marrying somebody, it would make me feel much better to have a person say, "Oh, I'm never getting married," and then meet me and then want to be married. You see what I'm saying? Versus a person who has always said, "One
that would
day I
be
want to
false
be married."
advertisement, though, because and that's where a lot of people have a problem with men, because men usually,
Mhm.
if they meet a woman, for example,
Right.
and they say, and the woman says, I don't want to get married, and the man is like, thank God, because I never want to get married,
Mhm.
right? If woman says at some point, actually, I want to get married, now they're like, well, I told you up front that I didn't want to get married. So it wouldn't actually work with that case scenario, unfortunately, because
Well, that's a good point
yeah,
that I've never thought
because
about before.
you need to be that extremely important thing with dating is you need to be upfront about what you want.
Right.
If you want to eventually get married, I mean, I actually am a little bit surprised, to be honest, because you said you're from a very traditional sort of you like a traditional sense, right, of relationship. I would have thought that you are into the marriage then, because that's
Well,
more of a traditional take.
I'm not necessarily against marriage. I don't necessarily not want to be married. I mean, I think there's a lot of problems that come with marriage. I think that the government being involved in your relationship is a big problem to me. Like, I think people being outside your relationship, people getting into your relationship, they're not immediately in the relationship. That's a big problem to me, I feel like. But I'm not necessarily against marriage. What I'm saying is, like, it would mean, I feel like it would be a much different thing if a woman said to me she never wanted to get married, and then because she met me, now she wants to be married to me, versus if I met her and she says that she wants to be married from the get, and then it's like we get. I mean, am I making sense here? Because I feel like, I don't know. I feel like if a person says before they meet anybody they want to be married, the first thing that comes to my mind is like, how do you know until you meet that person? Like, I don't know. I don't know how else to explain it other than that.
Well, how I would say is that, like, for example, when I was dating, I was upfront that I wanted to get married, but
Mhm.
I was very upfront that it doesn't mean that I want to get married to you. Right? So
Right.
it's like my sort of goal of a relationship is to eventually get married and have a family.
Mhm.
Because that's like, I come from very traditional sort of set of, and I'm very much into, I believe in marriage as a partnership, being there for your husband, he's there for you, and for me, the whole idea of marriage ideology, that's like each person takes responsibility for the other and says, I'm here with you until the end.
Right.
Right. And that's my intention. And that's what, like, and you kind of do intend to be together and have a family, whether it's kids or whatever. And that's why you get married. So it's your understanding of the whole marriage. So when I would date, or when I talk to women, I say that you need to be upfront about that at some point, like, only if you meet the right person, right? That's when and if it's all serious and you're happy with each other, then eventually you would like to, get married and perhaps have a family. Because if you do not tell that to a man, I don't know about you, but majority of men, and that's what I face, and I know numerous women who face that. They just want to have fun. And they don't take this seriously. They do not intend to take responsibility for a woman. And if you're not upfront about that, they, unfortunately, most men, they, they want different things. They're not the kind of men who would take that responsibility for a woman, or who would want to have a long-term relationship as well.
Yep.
Because, as you said, there is a massive problem with what's happening right now with dating and all the hookups and everything. A lot of people do not really want to settle down and have a family, or they don't know that they want it. I was when I was on dating sites, and so when I test sometimes what's happening there, I would ask men, like, what are you looking for? And most of the times they would answer, or they want to have some fun, or they don't even know what they want, or they're like, when I find it, I'll know it. And
that's basically all that is basically the same answer. If they say
Exactly.
they want to have fun, they don't know, or they'll know when they find it. That's basically all it means. They want to have fun.
Exactly.
But they want to opt out by telling you they don't know, or they'll know when they find it. Because if you come back and say, well, you didn't let me know, well, they said, no, I told you I didn't know. But I will say this, though, like the current relationship I'm in, I've had this same conversation almost that I'm having with you about the marriage and all this thing. And we were both kind of upfront from the beginning about what we wanted and all this kind of thing. And so, yeah, I agree. I think that's really important for somebody, for a couple to say from the beginning exactly what it is that they want. And if they don't know what they want, then maybe you should part ways until they do find out what they want. Because
exactly.
I think knowing what you're doing before you go into an interaction, that's important to know. And I'm not even saying that, these people who just want to go out and have fun. I mean, if that's what you want to do, man, that's what you want to do. But
Nothing
both
wrong with
parties, both parties need to be aware of that. Like, you don't need to say one thing and do something else, and then in the end somebody's getting hurt or whatever. Yeah. So I mean, I think the communication, that's one of the biggest things. That's one of the most important things to me in a relationship is communication. Like, I don't care. I want to know how you feel and what's going on. And I don't care if you think it's going to irritate me or whatever. Like, I want to, like, communication is a big thing to me. And so I was doing a couple weeks ago, I want to get your thoughts on this. I was doing a TikTok live, right? And I was asking people what they thought what was most important to them, love or respect. And well, actually what I said was love, respect, communication, or physical intimacy. And most people said respect. And that surprises me because I was expecting to hear love. But, I guess first of all, respect is a huge umbrella. Like, respect is a very big, there's a lot of things that fall under respect, I think that I don't think you can truly love a person unless you first respect them, And a point I was trying to make too was that you can have feelings for somebody, you can love somebody and a person, you can still cheat on that person. But if you respect that person, you're not going to be unfaithful to them if you respect them. And so I don't know, man. I know this sounds so like red pillish. This is such a red pill thing to say when you say you value respect the most. But I just feel like so many things fall into that category. There's so, like, yes, love is important, communication is important, all that stuff. But I think respect, if you have that as the front, at the peak of the umbrella, I think a lot of things fall under that and follow that. And I don't know, I'm just curious to get your thoughts on why I mean, would you think that most people say respect? Because I was really not expecting to hear that.
Well, I would say out of that list, it would be respect as well. And I'm glad to hear that people think so as well, because, I mean, that's one of the things that I teach primarily too, because I used to say love, trust, and respect, but love is the least important. It must be trust and respect. Without these two things, your relationship will not survive. Because if you ever disrespect your partner, they will have this aftertaste, and they will keep getting back to it. It'll be on their mind. And if you do it more than once, there'll be a problem. You
Yep.
probably won't survive. A very similar thing with trust. If one of you doesn't trust the other, that's a massive issue. So I would say, yeah, trust and respect, and probably communication will be very close, like nearby. That will be next.
Yep.
To it, because your relationship can survive anything, and sometimes we can even lose that feeling of love. When you're with someone for a long period of time, there can be all sorts of things can happen. But I actually believe that now, after so many years, I believe that love is a choice. If you ever had a feeling of love, even if you have fallen out of love, you can cause that feeling again. You can get it back. But respect is something that doesn't come back very easily. And same with trust. Trust and respect, once they're gone, you can forget about it. Your relationship.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because if you let a person disrespect you, if you let a person cross whatever boundaries it is that you have, they will lose respect for you. And then once the respect is gone, man, it's the attraction to you starts to slowly disappear. And that's when things like infidelity or, leaving the relationship or whatever it is, that's when those things happen. And we were talking about this before we started recording too, that like, I think the problem we have is people not standing up for themselves when they either are disrespected or their boundaries are crossed. If your partner does something to you, and this is just the way I see it, I mean, keep in mind now I was single for a long time, so this may not be the right way to look at it. But the way I see it, man, if they cross your boundaries, or they cross the boundary that you have, or they do something that you've already talked about, you have an opinion about or whatever, if they disrespect you in some kind of way and you don't speak up and you don't say that, first of all, that causes resentment because you have something to say that you're not saying. And then it's like, we want to look at the person, just say from the man's perspective, the man's point of view, we want to look at the man who doesn't say something as being the proper, what would you say, proper partner or whatever. And the man who does speak up is assertive. We want to see him as insecure, controlling, or whatever, when actually the opposite is reversed. The person who doesn't speak up is the insecure one, because he doesn't want to lose that partner. He's afraid that, and I'm speaking about the man's perspective right here, he's afraid that if he says something, he's going to lose that person. So that is the insecurity. Speaking up for yourself, knowing that if you say a thing, if you have this certain thought, this certain belief, that might piss your partner off to the point to where you lose them, but you still have to make it known that this is how you feel about this thing. I don't see how that is insecure. Now, there's obviously a way to have these conversations in a mutually respectful way. But I just think it's
my next point.
Yeah. I'm not saying just fly off at the handle with these things, and just be disrespectful because you were disrespected. But there's a certain way to have these conversations. But I think each partner has to be able to state what their boundaries are and then reinforce those boundaries, step up, stand up for those boundaries when they're, not respected. Because
extremely important. Yes. Both sides, men and women.
Yeah.
And what tends to happen is something happens, and one of the people, I know it from female perspective a lot, because I heard it from women like really a lot, when they would not talk about something that they did not like. I've not heard it as much from men, and it's actually good to hear that men have the same issue, that they might not speak up, and they just let it slide. But that shouldn't be the case, because what happens is, and that usually happens a lot in the beginning of the relationship, because it's still very shaky and people really like each other, and one person does something that the other doesn't like, but they won't say anything. And then, if you don't say anything, it's bound to repeat. So after some time, it repeats, and the person doesn't say anything. They're like, they really don't like it. They're stewing inside, but they're not saying anything. And then when they kind of get into a more serious stage of relationship, at some point it repeats and the person starts like blowing up and speaking up. And the
And
person
that's
who
the
did it,
resentment. That's the
they're like,
resentment.
they don't get it. They're like, why you, well, you never said anything before.
Mm-hmm.
So if you never said anything before, it comes as a huge, huge surprise that now you're speaking up because, well, why didn't you say it from the beginning?
Right.
And, you know, that's where the problem starts, because then for the person who does whatever it is you don't like or find disrespectful or whatever, for them, it's by now a norm. You know, they're like, and they don't understand where it comes from. That's why it's important from very beginning. You must like put your boundaries and say, look, this, just have a conversation, very respectful conversation. Try to let the person understand what they're doing, because nobody like gets into a relationship trying to hurt you, right? Or to do something that you won't like. People, when they get together, they actually want to make another person happy. They want to be happy and they want to make you happy. So this is foundational stages. Whatever foundation you're gonna lay out, that's how it's gonna go. And if you do not tell them what you don't like, it's like you can't expect them to change something or to treat you in a different manner later on. You must have this conversation at some point anyway. You might as well do it in the very beginning.
Yeah.
And it's for both men and women.
Yeah, exactly. And this reminds me of something too. I had an argument with a girlfriend one time, and I don't know about what it was about. It was basically about a communication, something about a communication. And she said that she didn't see this as a problem because she said that every other person that she interacted with in her life in this specific area, she was saying basically said the opposite of what I said, or something different from what I said. And my response to that was, I understand that, but how many other boyfriends have told you that this is that this specific area? How many other boyfriends have said that? Or is this friends and family that are saying, this area is okay, or is this boyfriends that saying this okay? And she basically said that she never thought about it like that, but it basically was the way that we were communicating was the same way she would communicate with friends and family. And I was like, but I don't think we're talking apples to apples here. You know what I'm saying? Like this is a completely different relationship. Like the way I talk to you and the way I talk to friends and family is completely different. The things that I tell you about or share with you are completely different from what I share with other people. And so I think sometimes it's just when you were talking about this, I think it's hard for us to maybe even realize that like we think we're just being how we are and we're acting the way we are, but we don't think about how, what we're saying or doing is coming across to our partner. I mean, just because this is how we, especially if we've been single for a while or whatever, this is just how we communicate, or this is what we do, or this is how we react to things. But it might be taken completely different from with a person that we're with. And yes, I think it's their responsibility to say if something bothers them, but also too, I think we have to kind of look at ourselves and just kind of be, aware of maybe what we're saying or doing. How is this affecting this person? Because like you said, I mean, however old a person is, they've been that way for, their whole life or their adult life probably. And so when we say things or do things, and then also too, like, every person's different, man. I mean, hopefully if you leave one relationship and go to another, hopefully you take the lesson with you and you don't do the, hopefully you're not the same asshole as you were in that relationship in this. I mean, I don't know, maybe, but yeah, I think it's important to be aware of that, just for us to kind of think like, I don't know. I hope that I try to do that. Like, I hope that I'm aware of maybe the things I say or do, like, how's it coming across? And you mentioned something else too about like, you don't hear the man's perspective a lot or whatever. I don't know if you've ever heard this, but I think sometimes a lot of women, they have this like, I don't know if there's like a fear or like a stigma around like nagging or complaining or whatever, there's like a very big difference in that and like, your girlfriend or your wife asserting what it is that she needs or wants. Like there's a very big difference in that. and I just feel like, and I feel like a lot of the men that I talk to and have talked to feel this way, that we want to know like what it is that you think or feel. Like if something bothers you, if something does, we want to know that. Like that's not nagging, that's not complaining, because the way I see it is going back to the traditional masculine, feminine balance, or the traditional roles or whatever. I feel like part of my role in that is to protect the woman that I'm with. And that doesn't mean just physically. That doesn't mean just from outside physical threats. It also means protecting her emotionally, protecting her mentally. And maybe sometimes that's even protecting her from things that I'm not even aware of that I do. So if I say, if something bothers her and I react a certain way or say a certain thing, that can go one of two ways. It can help the situation or it can hurt it. So it's not just, and I think this is where as men, we kind of get so caught up on like the physical, like protecting her physically, that we're not aware of the emotional and the mental and even the spiritual aspect of it. And I mean, I'm not saying that, we are like violent people, but I'm saying like protecting her from our reactions, from our, the way we might react to things. I think that's just as important as protecting her from the, outside physical world. Am I making sense here, or am I off?
No,
Okay.
100%. That's true. I'm really surprised. I don't hear a lot of that from men usually. So
How do you mean? What do you mean by that?
Very refreshing. Well, most men don't think this way. From the communications that I've had, they are, well, mostly men first think about everything physical, right? And just as you said, and they do not think as much of this whole emotional sort of thing. And a lot of times men cannot even understand this emotional part of a woman, because women tend to be more emotional. So and I think it actually scares a lot of men with the female reaction, and all this hormonal stuff. When we
Yep.
get like, we start crying or whatever, because men start panicking, and they don't know how to deal with it. So it's very interesting and refreshing that you brought it up and you actually realize that it's actually a man's also, in a way, responsibility to protect his woman emotionally,
Right.
because if you can do that, I mean, you have a very, very healthy, happy woman who will protect you in many other ways in return.
Yep.
Yeah, it's very surprised. Thank you.
Well, I mean, I don't know, man. I'm just saying that, and I see what you're saying about most men don't think this way, because like I said, first of all, I should have said this before we even started this conversation. I'm not trying to generalize. I'm not making generalizations here. I know there's people have different things, whatever. But I'm just saying, a lot of the times when, if a man talks to me, which this doesn't happen often, I don't think men talk about their problems with their relationship as much as maybe some women do. That's really a thing that irritates me, by the way, when people, if I'm in an intimate relationship with somebody and and I haven't had this happen in a long time, but if she's sharing like every single detail about an argument or whatever, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but that really irritates me, because
well, it really depends, because I think with women, what you need to understand, sometimes we just need to vent, and it doesn't matter who to.
And
it really doesn't.
Well, that's fine, and I get that. But the problem is the people that specifically my experience, that they were venting to.
Yes. I already know where you're going with.
Like, I mean, okay. Well, let's just ask ourselves this question: the people that they're venting to, the relationship that they have, if they even have one, is that a relationship that you want to have for yourself? Like, if we're going to ask for advice or vent, can we at least pick a person that we, that maybe we would be okay trading places with? I mean, I don't know. I'm not trying to be like, about it. But
I think it doesn't matter who you vent to, as long as that person who you vent to doesn't try to give you advice in return. They just kind of listen to you and say, oh, poor baby, right?
Yeah.
And okay, it's gonna all pass. Now go back and sort it out, right? And it's another thing, as like if you go to someone who, as you said, like isn't quite where you would like to be in your relationship, and then they start giving you advice.
Mm-hmm.
That's a totally different thing, right? Or even worse, if they start, if it's, for example, what sometimes happens, a family member or a friend who you kind of open up and told them, and then they start judging the partner or whatever, because they start picking sides, right?
Right.
And that's where the problem is, because then they start looking at your partner in a different manner, and they kind of have
Yep.
their own judgment, and the person feels it energetically, or maybe they'll even tell you something at some point, and that's where the problem is. So if it's the kind of friend or a stranger, who you will never see again, you just vented to them, you met them somewhere, vented on the bench somewhere, you never see them again, fine. Fair enough. Because you'll never see them again, your partner never will see them, but if it's a close friend who then will judge your partner now, so another situation, like if you are in an abusive relationship, it can actually save your life,
Right.
but if you're in a normal relationship and there are no psychos involved, then all you want is just to vent someone to listen, and that person should never get involved in that relationship, because your relationship is between two people. You must sort it out, or go to a professional, or someone with, or perhaps to even parents, if they are in a healthy relationship, because they can, as wiser people, if they've been like in a marriage for a long time, they can look at your situation with fresh eyes, right? If they can be objective. Now, if they're overprotective and they pick sides, that's another problem, right? So it's kind of like, I see where you're coming from, like, but at the same time, like, women vent, it's just who they vent to.
Yeah. Well, I think that's kind of where I'm coming from with this, because in my experience, it's always been like these single friends that, like, let's just leave it at that. The single friends that are always like going to get advice, and too, like, I think women influence other women more than maybe I would care to admit. And that's another thing. And also, I think the thing that bothers me the most, though, is like that I'm not there present to, like, first off, defend myself, and secondly, say my side of it, but not that I would ever tell these people my problems to begin with, but I don't know. That's just, that's a whole other thing. Listen, can we take a break for like just a second? I think we're over the 30-minute mark of the break. Let me stop this for just a minute, and we'll start back recording. We were talking about, protecting the woman emotionally and stuff like that. And what I was going to say, I don't think enough men think about this, but if you're having an argument or there's a disagreement or discussion or whatever, you mentioned that women a lot of times act off of emotion a little bit more than men. And I don't think we realize, if she's coming to us with a problem, she might not necessarily want a solution. And if she does want a solution, how are you delivering it? If she's in an emotional state and you're giving her a solution that's very like rigid and very like cold shoulder type, that's not going to do anything but hurt the situation. I mean, you need to like, how's your body language? How's your tone? What's the situation like when you're doing this? I mean, all these things matter, I think. To tie this all back in, man, this goes into the emotional intelligence. Like if we just knew about some of this stuff,
Yeah. And the thing with men are very solution oriented.
Right.
And it's really funny because I'm a bit like that as well. Yep. When someone comes to me with a problem, I actually, that's why I said I understand men, because like I have a lot of things, somehow my mind works that way as well. And I get it. Because like a woman comes to you and she starts again venting, right? And she's like, oh, this and that. And what men does, and I get it because I do the same thing. Like sometimes my mom comes to me with a problem and I start solutions, and it doesn't work. And then we start arguing because she didn't need that.
Yep.
She needed me to listen. So
Yep.
like what I started doing is I'm like, it's like she'll come and say something, and I'm like, you're venting, right? You just want me to listen. She'll start laughing because, you know, she's like, yeah, that's what I need. There's no
Yeah.
advice or anything needed. A woman
Yeah.
comes sometimes and she, you know, she's emotional. You just need to like listen, maybe give her a hug, you know, calm her down. Men just straight away go to solution. My partner is like that. I start saying something. He's like, okay, so what are we going to do about it? Like,
Right.
that's not why I'm telling you this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna think about solution right now. My mind
Yeah.
is blown, you know. I'm like, I have all these emotions going through the whole of my body. Yeah, it's like you just need to kind of understand the difference, and I guess you can just ask, you know, or maybe just let her kind of do her thing, give her a hug, calm her down, and if she needs a solution, she'll tell you that she needs a solution, or just
Yep.
ask, do you want my help? You know, with it? Do you want me to, you know, to help and find a solution, or are you good? You just needed to talk. Because that's a lot of the times that's what women do. We come with any problem to a man. It's just how the world works. Like a woman, who will she go to? She'll go straight away to her man. Because he is for her everything, her shoulder to cry on, you know. And often men don't realize that they just need to be there, like I don't know, like a blanket, you
Right.
know, just to comfort her. You know, you don't need
Yeah.
to do anything else. Just comfort and just let her emotions go up and down and calm her down, and that's it.
And you know, the bad thing is, I know that's hard for a lot of men to hear because they think that they're doing the right thing. Like they think, oh well, she has this problem, I have this solution, we're going to do this, everything's going to work out. And then they get frustrated that, you know, they have what seems like a solution and it's not fixing the problem, and it's just like it's a spiral. You know, one thing leads to another. Next thing you know, there's a bigger argument that's way bigger than it should have been. But yeah, man, I just think it's important to know the difference in that, you know. And I mean, I don't know, when you say that a lot of men act off of logic and a lot of women act off emotion, when you say that these days, people want to lose their minds. But like that doesn't change how it is, like how it works a lot of the times.
That's Mother
and then,
Nature.
Yeah,
because we are created.
Yeah, and then like you talking about, I'm the same way too about being solution oriented. And man, one thing I had the hardest time learning this. Like, let's say you have a disagreement or an argument, okay, and it gets late at night or whatever, and you see the solution is not going to be solved that night. You know how hard it is to say, okay, well, let's just go to sleep. We'll be refreshed tomorrow. We'll talk about this later. You know how hard it is to say that versus like, okay, let's just fix the problem right now. It doesn't matter if we stay up till midnight. I mean, it's hard. It was really hard for me to do that, man. But sometimes that's what it takes. Like, you just have to, like, you know, just reset, just go get, because look, a bad night's sleep is not going to do anything but make the problem worse. You know, if you're losing sleep, if you think you're arguing now, wait until in the morning when everybody's like sleep deprived. You know, so I don't know, just kind of taking some time away and letting, you know, just whatever, if she needs space or whatever it is, me being so solution oriented and feeling like everything needed to happen right then and there and be solved right then in that moment. That was a big thing that I had to work on, you know, for a while. But
you need to also, especially in a new relationship, that's a learning curve because every person is different. There are people, there'll be men and women who kind of like to dive in right away and kind of fix it and carry on, right? And there will be people who just need to step out of it and have their space. I'm usually like more of a, I need a space, you know. I'm a Cancer as well, so Cancerians, we just have this thing, like when we you know, thrown into a situation, we just need to step back, take a breather, you know, like, and then come back to it once we are ready. And you'll still have people who are just like you, women as well. But in every relationship, like when it begins, you kind of need to figure out what kind of person you deal with and let them have what they need. If it's space, give them space.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure that maybe if you have a certain kind of situation, even you would need space sometimes.
Yeah.
You won't, like, it depends on the situation. That's where your intuition needs to kick in, and you need to see how the person is and what they need at this particular moment.
Mhm.
Because sometimes even people who are solution oriented at specific situation, they won't be solution oriented. They'll
Well,
need that space also.
yeah, I mean, even though we say that men, make a lot of decisions based on logic, that doesn't mean they don't have emotions. So if they're in the, if they're in the middle of a thing, everybody's emotions are going to be involved. So sometimes it's the best thing to do is just take a step back, give it some time, whatever, have time to think about it, and then come back and revisit the problem. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I
And
think that's much more productive than everybody just being emotional, like, through the roof and just trying to solve a problem. That's not going to help anybody.
And the thing is, like, most men, men usually have emotions also.
Mm-hmm.
They just suppress them more. They don't
Hmm.
let them out as much. Again, it depends on the more traditional men or more kind of new generation. I guess they're a bit more open with their emotions.
Yeah.
And older generation, they're a bit more kind of closed off, and they don't like showing their emotions.
Mm-hmm.
But they still have them. And that's
Right.
what women have to remember also, because I think sometimes they forget, and they think that just because men has a poker face that nothing is happening there, but it does. So, like, for all the women out there, I would say, tune into your intuition, because your intuition works really well, and try to kind of, feel your man more.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes, like, he won't show you, but if you really tuned in, you can read him and you will understand. If you master that, then yeah, it'll be a totally different kind of relationship.
I agree. So let me ask you about this, because I've said before and I've heard before that to a lot of women, love is the way that they are loved is more important than the way a man feels he is respected. So you could say that to some women, love is more important than respect, and to some men, respect is more important than love. And I think, I don't know, I'm kind of asking you here. I think a problem that we have today is that we have women trying to love men the way that women want to be loved, and we have some men trying to respect women the way they want to be respected. And so what we're doing here is we are giving the other side what we think they want based on what we want. And if we just gave them what it was they wanted, maybe we would be in a different situation. I don't know. Am I somewhere accurate with that as far as like your experience and who you've talked to and things like that?
Every person is different, I think. So if we start with the whole love thing, I mean, I believe in love and everything. There is nothing above love. But when it comes to relationships,
Mm-hmm.
to start with, there is ideology of love. Let's not forget about that, because I think a lot of the times what women think they want
Mm-hmm.
is actually not exactly what they want. Because if you see all the films, all the romance, and all that BS,
Mm-hmm.
it's not how life works.
Right.
And right, and in a lot of women's subconscious, it's how they would like it to be.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the times, even when it comes to it, actually it's not really what they would really want to have. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They think they want it, but they want something else. So they're confused themselves very
Right.
often, because they think they have this is the ideology of love, right?
Right.
but somewhere deep inside, actually, they need something totally different. And that's why it's tricky for men to figure out exactly what a woman needs or wants,
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes she doesn't even know herself.
Right.
Do you see what I mean?
Yes, I got you.
That's why it's super difficult for men, unfortunately. I think men are a little bit more straightforward in this sense, because men, like, they this is what they want. And I mean, everybody wants to be respected.
Mm-hmm.
Men and women, they just, sometimes I think women themselves do not quite understand what love means for them. And love includes a lot of things, including respect.
Right.
You see? So how they want to be loved, and what men give to them, it's really case by case scenario.
Right.
Because for every person, it will be super different.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the times, whatever their family situation was, would come into play, whatever traumas that they experienced. And the thing is, they wouldn't even realize it. So they'll keep
Mm-hmm.
getting the same situations over and over again. And the person wouldn't realize where it comes from.
Right.
But really, it's just that trauma. And when you have trauma blocking you, you think you want this thing which is visible, but what you really want is to fix that thing within you, to uncover something totally different. You see how, like,
Yeah, no, I got you. Do you think, okay, so do you think that what you're talking about here, do you think it's because men and women want to be, like, everybody wants respect? I agree with that.
Yeah.
But do you think it's that men and women want respect in different ways? Because I feel like there's some things that men might think are disrespectful that women might not necessarily see a problem with, and vice versa.
I think it comes not from men or women. I think it comes from background and things that happened in people's past. Because I think with certain situations, the same thing, even with men, would probably be, for one, he won't have a problem with it, and another man might find it disrespectful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know if
I
if
see
you can
that.
agree.
Yeah.
So I think it more comes to your background, your experiences in life, and your personal ideology, rather than man versus woman.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just gonna say that makes a lot of sense, because I would. So this is what I think about this, and this is without a doubt going to piss off some of the men, but I mean, it's just what it is. I think that most men would say respect is like the most important thing to them. They, and whatever that means to them, respect is the most important thing. This is the problem. So you talked about that like one man, that might mean this, another man that might mean this. But men say that, and then simultaneously they don't. Everybody is a valuable person. Okay. Everybody has value. Everybody is a valuable person because they are a human being. They're valuable. But in the dating market, in the dating marketplace, there are people who are of more value than other people to certain people. One person, if you have a man or a woman, there's somebody out there. This person's going to be more desirable than this person, than this person. I mean, that's just how it is. That's just the way it is. We have preferences. There's nothing wrong with that. We have things that we're attracted to. There's nothing wrong with that. People have preferences, and there's going to be different people in the market that are more valuable to certain people. I think the problem is that men say, oh, they want to be respected. They want this and they want that. But, like, are they being somebody to that woman that is worthy of the respect they're asking for? What are they bringing to the table for this woman?
Exactly.
I don't have nothing against video games or watching TV or football or drinking or whatever else. I have nothing with those things. If it's in moderation, if it's not hurting somebody else, do whatever you want to do. But what are you bringing to the table? What are you giving this woman that is worthy of her respecting? I mean, you can't just, it's a pretty arrogant thing to just walk around and say, I want to be respected by somebody. Like, that's never going to work for anybody, man. You're not going to get anywhere like that. And also too, like, I know that the economy, things are in a place that it's harder for families to survive on one income than it used to be. I'm not making this about finances. I'm saying, what kind of man are you going to be for this woman? What can you bring to the table for her that's going to make her be okay with giving you that respect that you say you want? Because just because you say you want that, and I'm speaking just for men. I think women are kind of in a different situation with this, but just for men, just because you say you want that, it makes it very unlikely that you're going to get it if that's all you're doing is saying that you want it. Because if I can't see some, this sounds so bad, man. If I can't see this person saying this, if I was just reading this story on paper, somebody wrote this down, and a person is just walking around saying, I want to be respected. What I see is a grown ass child. Like, I see like a 30 or 40 or, maybe even 50-year-old child. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. But what I'm trying to say is this: what I'm trying to say. I hope this pisses some guy off out there, because I hope this motivates him to better himself and better his life. What are you giving this person? What are you offering this person? Because I don't know, if you're not bringing anything if she's taking care of you as a grown adult, like, I don't see where does the respect come in? Like, what are you doing in this situation to contribute to this? Am I losing you here? Am I making sense here?
And the thing is, like, if you're a respectable human being, you won't have to ask for respect, right? Because you behave in a way that people respect you.
Well, yeah, okay, but this is what I'm saying. Like, I think every person, man or woman, should have respect just because they're a person. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, when a man says they want a certain woman, they want this, they want that. Like, what are you giving to this person? Like, if you want a woman who's a 10 out of 10, what are you doing to be a 10 out of 10 man? I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's like the same thing with a job. Like, if somebody wants a CEO title, what are you doing? Are you a CEO? Are you waking up at 5 a.m.? Are you putting in extra hours? Are you taking on all the responsibility? Like, what if you want this title, if you want this thing, what are you doing to get there? Like, you can't just walk around saying you want these things, man, and just expect it. Like, you gotta do something to get there. I don't know. I just, it irritates me though, because it's those guys who are doing this is what puts a bad name on all the other men out there who actually do want this and who are willing to make whatever improvement it is to their life, to themselves, whatever it is, to be the best partner they can. And it's the men who are saying that and simultaneously not doing shit that's giving everybody else a bad name for it. I don't know. That's my little rant for today. I mean, I don't know, dude, because people have a point when they say things like, well, I'm not going to go there. I've made my point. I've said what I had to say.
Go there.
I've said what I had to say, and that's just. Look, I'm just saying, dude. Like, no woman, I feel like, wants to take care of a grown child. Like, and if you can't, I'm not saying, okay, I'm not making this about finances. I'm not saying you have to make a ton of money.
I would disagree with you there. I think there might be women who don't mind taking care of a grown up child.
Well, listen, that's fine.
There'll be a few, and it's fine.
That's okay.
There is market for that.
They can take those guys and just get them out of the way and just, like, hold them over there and let the rest of us do what we have to do to, like, move things along here. I mean, I don't know, dude.
But I think if you respect yourself and you treat the person the right way, they'll respect you, right? If you have not done anything to be disrespected, why would someone disrespect you? You won't. If you are a respectable person, like, why would someone disrespect you? It just doesn't make any sense.
Right.
So my question is, well, those people who say that they want to be respected, are they the type of person who is respectable? You see what I mean?
I think that's the exact thing. You said it in so much of a cleaner way than what I just did, but that's exactly what I was. That is exactly what I was saying. I wish you would have said that before I said what I said, man. That's exactly what I was trying to say. Because I went on this whole big tangent about this thing, and you just like cleaned it up. Yes, forget what I just said. That's exactly what I was trying to say right there.
But it's just, the thing is, often people want what they don't have.
Mm-hmm.
And they keep saying, this is what I want, because they're not getting it, because that's not the type of person they are. So change yourself, and the world around you will change.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. And something else too, I want to get your thoughts on this. So you hear people, and this is man or woman that says this, but I've heard a lot of men say this, that their spouse is like number one in their life. Like their spouse is the most important person to them. And I understand where this comes from. I understand the thought process behind this. But if another person is number one to you and your own personal growth and development is not number one, are you really giving that person the best you that you can give them? And I know that sounds selfish when you say that you put your own personal development at the forefront. Like you put the own, like whatever the purpose of your life is, or your own development, if you put that number one, everybody else connected to you is going to benefit from that. Because I just feel like there's so many problems with saying that a person is number one to you or whatever, because that means if you were to lose that person, you would basically lose what you see as your purpose in life. And I'm saying number one, that's not how it was worded to me. What was specifically said to me was this person's purpose to care for their partner. Like that was their purpose in life. And I'm like, dude, no, I don't know about that.
Well, in a way, I wouldn't like, I think that it's not a bad thing if there is harmony in the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Because the thing is, the way the world is created, like with the relationship between a man and a woman, if they have everything they need to have, right, and everything goes right, and the energy flow is correct, then if the man's priority is to make his woman happy,
mm-hmm.
then with that alone, by making her happy, his whole life will be the best he can have. If it's a wise woman, okay?
Right.
Obviously, if it's not the right woman, then you're screwed. But if it's the right woman and she's wise and, homemaker, and she does all the right things,
mm-hmm.
It's just how the energy is created in the relationship and how it flows. Because a woman can make a man into she can, the energy she can give him,
right,
of love and nurture and everything, he can blossom into his best potential ever. You see what I mean? Like if you give everything that a woman needs,
right,
she will give you so much more.
Yep.
It's like infinite abundance.
Yep.
I just know from sort of energetic how it works and how that nurturing kind of goes around.
Mm-hmm.
I see where you come from with like making it your whole world. You kind of need to have your own kind of sort of, I don't know, life. But if it's the right portion of things, and if it's that real, true soulmate union, family, and everything until death do us part through the situation, right? Not when one person will at some point kind of say, okay, thank you very much, off you go, right?
Yeah.
If it's the right kind of situation, I actually don't think that it's wrong, because I know how much a woman can provide back to a man.
Yeah.
Like,
no, I agree with that, man.
You can see what I mean.
No, I definitely agree with that, because I think one of the most powerful forces on the face of the planet is the support and loyalty from a very supportive, loyal, in my preference, feminine woman. Like that type of just energy is like one of the most valuable things on the face of the planet. And so I get what you're saying, but I guess what I'm trying to say is, how can you give her that the best you or life or whatever it is without first being your best self? And so I guess kind of that's where,
Yeah, but if that's the flow, like as I said, then she makes you into your best self. See what I mean? Because sometimes, like they say, behind every great man there is a great woman, right? But that's why I said, like, if it's the right kind of relationship, then it makes sort of sense. It doesn't mean that you should lose yourself and your face and let her disrespect you and all that. No. If you have like trusting, respectful relationship, you love each other dearly, and it just it's sort of, I think what they mean in that kind of situation, that the man is sort of very selfless, and if he is, and he gives everything the woman needs in that situation, then she gives him so much more. And that's just the cycle of life. That's how kind of feminine and masculine actually works. Because if the man puts himself first, there is a slightly different energetics happening.
No, I'm not saying to put yourself, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if you don't, I'm saying if your number one focus or priority or purpose is another person, whether you're a man or a woman, if your number one priority or focus is another person, I think that puts you in a position to be, not in every situation, but sometimes it can put you in a position to be manipulated, or like if you end the relationship, you're going to lose what you thought was the foundation of your life. And so I think you have to, I agree with everything that you're saying, but I think you have to start first with a solid sense of self, whatever that is for you.
Yeah, I guess, I guess I would say, really, until you're solid yourself, you shouldn't get involved with someone else.
Right, yeah.
Right? So once you have your everything sorted and you are solid, then you are bringing that other person who helps you better your life. You help them better theirs, and they help you better yours. And that's what I meant. Like, you have that healthy energy flow in the relationship. Because if you are not complete yourself and you enter a relationship, well, all sorts of issues start there. Because you haven't done your work, so really, before you get into a serious relationship, you should do your work. Sort yourself out first.
I agree.
Yeah.
Dude, it's just, I don't know, man. It's so hard for me to look at it that way, though. It's so hard for me to say, like, if I care about this woman, she cares about me, then if I'm doing the right thing, she's going to help me get to whatever point I want to be in life. Because the way I see it is, if I can do everything that I want to do in my life, if I can make all my goals and dreams and ambitions and everything else, if I can do that, I'm going to be able to be the best person I can be for her and give her the best life I can give her. So I don't know. It's hard for me to look at her taking me to the top versus, or whatever the pinnacle is of the goals.
You shouldn't look at it that way. You should just do your best, whatever. And then, woman, you just take like extra responsibility, really, right?
You said the what now?
It's kind of like extra responsibility, because another person in your life is a responsibility. So unless you are kind of part way to where you want to go, you're just taking on extra responsibility. If you're not where you want to kind of go, you shouldn't really take extra responsibility.
Right.
You see what I mean? Like,
yeah, I got you.
Yeah, so no, I agree in that sense. You shouldn't see her as a vehicle to get in there. I'm just saying, like, how it kind of works energetically. Because there are all sorts of beliefs in, like, Vedic culture and all that, where they say so that woman energetically actually feeds a man a lot. So depending on her energy is what's going to be created within the relationship, and then where a man is going to go. somehow it's not the different way around. So because of that, it's very important what kind of energy flow is going to be there, right? You don't really want to kind of look for a woman and say, oh, because I have her,
Yeah.
okay, go to the top. No, you kind of expect to go there anyway, right? You just live in your life, but the woman is a responsibility for a man. Just like he needs to be prepared that if you have a woman, you might have children, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a responsibility because she probably won't be able at that point to work.
Right.
She'll need to look after the kids, so that's extra responsibility. And if you want to give them a good life, you need to understand that there are things you'll need to do.
Yeah, I think the reason. No, I agree with what you're saying. I'm just thinking, like you were talking about, the energy from a woman like that being a really valuable source. I think the reason that's so valuable, man, is because it's like, I don't know, the support and the love and just the energy from a woman that like that is such a valuable thing, because I think it's desired by a lot of men, whether they want to admit it or not. And it's almost like it feels like it's rare to find, that. And I think that's why, there's so much value. There's something to be said in a woman that is with you that a lot of men want, that can't have,
Yeah.
And whether that's because of her beauty or because of her energy or because of whatever it is, like there's just something about that,
And let's be honest, if there were no women, I mean, how many men would want to go to a very, very top? They would probably just spend their time,
dude. Like, I'm so glad you said it, because that's a real thing, man. That is a real thing. Like, men, I don't think women understand how powerful they are. When it's like, when I say almost everything a man does that is competitive is for him to have the best possible choice of mate that he can have.
Yeah.
Like, women don't understand the influence they have, dude. Like, these guys are out here competing in all these different fields for whatever, like to get to the top of whatever. And it's because of that, the choice of that woman. Like, this is why. And this is okay. So I've already pissed off the men. Here I go. I'm gonna piss off the women now. This is why promiscuity from women specifically is as dangerous as it is. Because if a woman is promiscuous, and okay, let's put that aside for a second. We have, like you said, all these men who are competing to get the most valuable, the attention from the most valuable woman. If certain women are being promiscuous and they are giving that attention or their body or whatever out easier and more accessibly to men, that means those men aren't going to have to try nearly as hard to get the attention from those women. The good women maybe, but the women who are like highly promiscuous, they're not going to have to try nearly as hard. And that's why I think promiscuity is such a big thing, because the men don't have to try nearly as hard to get the attention from those women. And so, like, so what does that mean?
It doesn't mean that that's the women they will want.
Well, maybe not. Because
it doesn't always work that way. Like, every man and every woman is different, and there is a bigger topic of meeting your soulmate, for example, right? It won't matter once you have that connection, it's so strong that nothing can break it. It's just out of this world. And men get fueled up with that, and the woman does as well, because there is all this love and emotions overflowing, so that's another thing. Also, there are all sorts of men, all sorts of women, and whoever is much for one won't be a much for another one.
Right.
So but if you meet your person, that's the most important thing. It just must be your kind of person. The other thing is that sometimes there is one person who is a great match for a lot of people,
Yeah.
That's a different topic, because like if a lot of men want this woman, let's say, right? Well, she'll only pick one, right? Because
Hmm.
there are many men, but then men kind of need to be also very conscious about that. Like, if you cannot give her much, well, don't even try. Like, go get someone who is of a similar level, because I've met a lot of that in my life, when people kind of like, they just want this so much, they'll do whatever, but then they can't hold it.
Right.
They can't hold it because they freak out. It's just too much for them, and they start
Hmm.
saying, "Oh, you." That's when it comes like, "You nagging me," or "You asking too much." Well, go get someone who you can provide with whatever, on that level.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. That kind of ties into what I was saying earlier too.
Yeah. So.
All right. I don't. I want to keep talking, but I can't. Like I got a call. I got a thing in 8 minutes. So man, this has been a great conversation. uh
Definitely. I feel like we could have probably talked all day long.
oh yeah. I mean, we'll have to do a part 2 of this, I feel like. Um so let me ask you this before we close out. If you had to say like a most important thing you've learned, or maybe a most important thing you've seen, or a very valuable lesson you've learned just from your life or maybe your career, that you would be comfortable sharing, what do you think, just an important piece of like wisdom, or uh, anything along those lines that just kind of the first thing that comes to mind?
Oh my God, just one?
I know it's hard to pick one, man.
um,
Because there's so much we could probably actually really choose from, which I guess that's a good thing though, because that means you've learned a lot of valuable information in your life.
Plenty. Well, gosh, I can't choose one. There are so many. I think first and foremost, you need to make sure that you work on yourself,
Mm-hmm.
um, and uncover all the darkest parts of yourself, and
Right.
work through that to uncover that and let it go, because a lot of times that holds us down.
Mm-hmm.
And once you are able to do that, you'll be able to accelerate in life,
Right.
and believe in miracles, because they're real, and love above all. There is no greater force in this life, or greater feeling, or greater anything.
Mm-hmm.
There is nothing else. Like, there is one thing that you want to experience in this life, is real, true love. And it's not just towards another human being, it's towards everything and everyone, including yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of the times people struggle to love others because they do not love themselves enough.
Right.
So learn to love yourself, and then the rest of loving experiences will come into your life. So there are a few, but yeah, there are so many more things. Like, literally, yeah, I think for everyone it would be a different kind of advice I would give. So it would depend on the person
Right.
that I would
Right.
speak to at the time.
Well, I think everybody can benefit from loving more. I don't think if everybody loves more, I think that would solve a lot of issues, a lot of
Yeah.
problems.
And if you look at other people with empathy, a lot of the times when people we meet people in our way, we take things so personally
Mm-hmm.
that we forget to see that this is just another human being in
Right.
front of us who is going through their own stuff,
Mm-hmm.
And they're having their own experience. And about 99% of the times, however they hurt you or do something towards you has nothing to do with you.
Mm-hmm.
So try to be a bit more loving and compassionate towards other humans, more understanding, and perhaps others will show the same to you.
Well, that's absolutely beautiful. That's how we end a podcast about relationships, man. Love more. That will solve like all of our problems.
Yes.
I'm serious. I'm dead serious. I think that loving more will solve a lot of issues in the world, like for sure. And
I
loving
believe
other
so.
people and loving ourselves, you know.
100%.
So, let me. Is it Svetlana?
Svietlana.
Svetlana.
Yeah.
Svetlana. Okay.
Perfect.
I appreciate your time, man. I really do. This has been a great
Thank you,
conversation.
Yes.
I'm gonna stop this recording and I'll let you know about the uploading situation, but I do appreciate it.
Me too. Thank you very much for having me.